Go for the pulls and the pools. Go for the oohs and the ahs. Go for the bubbles and the bubbly. Go for the story and the stories. Go for the win. Go to Ocean Casino Resort. Book your trip at theoceanac.com.
What's up, everybody, and welcome in to the Philly Sports Power Hour with Bill Colarulo on this Tuesday, January playoff week for the Philadelphia Eagles. Although it doesn't feel like the playoffs at all for this city and this Eagles football team. But we're going to be joined later on in the show by Eagles insider Dave Spadaro, who's always positive. But what's he going to say today after the embarrassment we just saw at the Meadowlands, at Giants Stadium, MetLife Stadium? So we'll see what Dave Spadaro has to say. He'll be joining the show a little bit later on. But we want to talk, obviously, about this Eagles game that's coming up. But we also have to do some Flyers talk. You guys know I love my Flyers, and some big news coming out of South Philadelphia last night, so we'll talk about that as well. But we are here live on the JAKIB Sports Network on YouTube. We are also live right here on TikTok. And for those of you guys who are on TikTok, if you want to see the interview of Eagles insider Dave Spadaro, you're going to have to jump over to YouTube at the break. I'll let you guys know where to find us when we take our first break. But let's get a little roll call from my Power Hour crew. I see Adam's Exploits in the house already. Who else we got here today? William Stark, Ringo Island, nice and early, Flexin' and Steppin', David Laprati, Chuck Hutton. Good to see all you guys today. And Ringo Island coming to us from Tampa today. Schools are canceled because of how windy it is. So, hey, and some of you guys I saw last night at my other show, the Legal Hands to the Face show. But if you didn't get a chance to watch, you're going to want to check that out. We had Johnny Marks on as our guest, talking all things Philadelphia Eagles, 90-minute show, which was great. So check that out. You could find it on my YouTube channel. You could find it here on JAKIB Sports. You could also find it wherever you get your podcasts, Legal Hands to the Face. So if you want to listen to the audio, go check it out on your favorite podcast platform, me and Johnny Marks. Chuck Hutton, sorry, Bill, but though I like Dave, I want to hear him least. It's going to be tough, guys. It's going to be tough. And the crazy thing is as we get ready for the playoffs, and I said this last night on the Legal Hands to the Face show, we wait all offseason for the NFL to resume. And what we are waiting for is hopefully the playoff run that the Philadelphia Eagles will go on. That's the reason we watch, because we can't wait to get to the playoffs. And I cannot remember in all of the years that I've been a Philadelphia Eagles fan ever feeling like this right before a playoff game. The vibe in this city is terrible right now, and rightfully so. Why should we have any hope after what we've just witnessed over the last 6 games with this Eagles team? And I asked Johnny Marks last night, and I just posted a little clip on my Instagram. If you're not already following, make sure you're following at Legal Hands to the Face on Instagram. Also posted it on TikTok. But did the San Francisco 49ers break this team? Because after they got punched in the mouth by the 49ers, they've never been able to recover. The Cowboys dominated them the week after. The Seahawks upset them with a backup quarterback right after that. They barely snuck by the Giants. They got embarrassed by the Cardinals. They got embarrassed by the Giants the last game of the season. Did the 49ers break this football team? And Johnny Marks brought up a good point. If you remember, after that 49ers game, what Nick Bosa had to say, that they gave the blueprint on how to beat this Eagles team and Jalen Hurts. I see more people checking in. What's up, Twiz? What's up, Jason A-Team? What's up, WCBJJ? Peter Doty, good to see you guys. And I see on TikTok, Arthur Pacelli asking a question we talked about yesterday. Why the hell are they dropping Hassan Reddick into coverage? Great question. And I want to talk about some of the decisions from this defense in a second. But sticking with the offense, did the 49ers do exactly what Nick Bosa said they did and gave the blueprint on how to beat this Eagles team? Don't let Jalen Hurts escape up the middle. Force him to roll out. Take away any of his options in the running game. And they have zero answer for the blitz. Zero. So we'll see what happens. But before we dive in, because I do want to talk more about this Eagles team, I want to talk more about this defense. We'll continue to break down the playoff game, crazy playoff game that's coming up the rest of the week as well. But I want to talk about our Philadelphia Flyers. And before we do, I'm sure a lot of you guys watched the national championship game last night. Whether you like Harbaugh or not, the guy's a winner, man. The guy is a winner. Everywhere he's been, they have won. He still has one of the best winning percentages in the NFL during his time with the 49ers. And now he takes Michigan to the national championship in an undefeated season. And there's going to be a lot of NFL suitors lined up for him to come back to the NFL. We'll see what happens, but guy's a good coach. Whether you think he cheated, stealing signs, whatever you may think, the guy is a good coach. And I see the Real Zeal saying he wasn't before he started cheating, but he is good, man. He built a great, great team in Michigan. One of the best teams Michigan's ever had, if you look at that team and the outcome of the season. But let's jump over to the Philadelphia Flyers for a second, because big news coming out of South Philadelphia that shocked everybody last night. Coming on the heels of the USA winning the Junior World Championship, and everybody feeling all good because one of the leaders of that team, who was tied for the lead in points during the tournament, leading the USA to the gold medal, was Cutter Gauthier, fifth-round pick of the Philadelphia Flyers in 2022, 19 years old, sophomore at Boston College, having a great sophomore campaign. Everybody's all excited. Cutter Gauthier was supposed to be a part of this rebuild for the Flyers. And what none of us knew was that he told the Philadelphia Flyers organization he did not want to play in Philadelphia. After getting drafted in 2022 and telling Danny Briere that he was built to be a Flyer, last year something changed. He then told him he would not play for the Flyers. He doesn't show up to the developmental camp over the summer. Danny Briere and Keith Jones fly out to the juniors to talk to him to see if maybe they could change his mind. He wouldn't talk to them. So they were forced to make a trade. And Danny Briere explained the reason why they didn't announce any of this to the public. It makes a lot of sense. Two reasons. One, if he did change his mind, they didn't want him to be hated in Philadelphia. And two, it would have maybe lowered his trade value. If other teams knew this kid was going to refuse to play for the Philadelphia Flyers, it would have really lowered his trade value. So the Flyers, hands were tied. Had to make a move. Had to make a move right now. And they trade Cutter Cutter Gauthier for defenseman Jamie Drysdale from Anaheim. I know they're excited about Drysdale. I'd be lying to you if I told you I knew a lot about this kid. He's 21 years old. He was the 6th overall pick in 2020. He has played over 120 NHL games already in his career. And I know they think he's going to grow into being a top unit defenseman, a power play point defenseman. But we'll see, man. It wasn't ideal. And I'll tell you what. Cutter Gauthier made a mistake. Because I know this Flyers organization hasn't been as great in recent years as they've been in the past. But one thing I do know is if that kid would have came to Philadelphia and been the superstar that everybody was hoping he would be, he would have been loved in this town. He would have been a hero in this town. You think you're going to get that same fanfare playing for the Anaheim Ducks? You're not. Because there's no fan base like the Philadelphia fan base, especially the Philadelphia Flyer fan base. And this kid had an opportunity to come into this city and play for this organization and be absolutely loved, to be a hero in this town. And he refused to play here. His mistake, man. But I'll tell you, it also says a lot about where this Philadelphia Flyers organization has gone and how it's viewed on the national level these days. And I know Danny Briere and Keith Jones are trying to bring it back. But do you really think any prospect, when Ed Snyder was in his heyday, would have said they didn't want to play for the Philadelphia Flyers? The Philadelphia Flyers were the premier organization in the NHL. It's unfortunate, man. But Cutter, you're lost, my friend. Have fun in Anaheim. But the Philadelphia Flyers have to get their act together. They lost another one last night to the Penguins 4-1. They're now 3-4-3 in their last 10 games after being so hot for about a month from November to December. They haven't played great recently, but they're still in a playoff spot. Got to get going again. They're back in action tomorrow night against Montreal. But let's jump over real quickly, guys, and talk a little bit about this Philadelphia Eagles team before we're joined by Eagles insider Dave Spadaro. First of all, we knew this Philadelphia Eagles team was making a desperate move when they turned to Matt Patricia as their defensive coordinator. We knew that defense had struggled all season long, but at least they had some good games. And I'm sorry, I got a sick son coming in here. Hey, buddy, Daddy's on the air right now. Can you go out there? I'll be right out, okay?
Daddy,
yeah, buddy.
When they eat goldfish, they have to drink water.
Okay, go get some water. Sorry, guys, my boy is home sick today. Go ahead, buddy. Go get yourself some water. Something's going around, but that's my buddy. You okay? Sorry about that. Doing the show from home sometimes, you got to deal with all the stuff. But my little boy's not doing well, my buddy. He's got something that's going around. But we knew when they switched to Matt Patricia that was a desperate move. And you look at the last 4 games now that Matt Patricia has taken over this defense. And a lot of people said when they moved on from Sean Desai to Patricia, well, it can't get much worse. Well, it did get much worse. And it got much worse against teams that it shouldn't have gotten worse against. You're talking about 3 teams, because they played the Giants twice in that 4-game span, 3 teams that don't have good offenses. The Seattle Seahawks were the 21st ranked offense in terms of yards. The New York Giants, 29th. The Arizona Cardinals, 19th. And all 3 of those teams embarrassed your defense. The Cardinals and the Giants put up over 400 yards. The Seattle Seahawks went 92 yards in under 2 minutes with a backup quarterback. And at least under Sean Desai, not that he had a great defense, but at least there were times where the defense looked competitive. He had a good game against Tampa Bay in week 3. One of Tampa Bay's worst performances of the year, by the way, from an offensive perspective. And that was Sean Desai's defense. They shut down the Los Angeles Rams in the second half of that game. They shut down the Miami Dolphins' high-powered offense. They had a good game against the Dallas Cowboys in the second half of the game at Lincoln Financial Field. So at least Sean Desai's defense had some sparks of life. Now, I'm not a huge fan of Matt Patricia. I was not a big fan of them hiring him in the offseason from a culture perspective. And I didn't think the guy had any success without without Bill Belichick. But I'm not even blaming Matt Patricia for what we're seeing on the field. This was a mistake by Howie Roseman, Jeffrey Lurie, and all of the higher-ups who thought it was a good idea to switch defensive coordinators in the middle of a season and force that defensive coordinator to use somebody else's defense. And Nick Sirianni confirmed as much yesterday at his press conference. When asked about the defense and if he had any consideration of going back to Sean Desai or changing play callers, here's some of the quotes from Nick Sirianni. We're not completely changing to Matt's philosophy because it's hard to say, hey, we're going to run a completely new defense at this point in the year when Matt took over. Do you think so? Do you think it's hard with only 4 games left in the season? So instead of switching to a new defense, they took a defensive coordinator and told them, you're going to run Sean Desai's defense. And now we wonder why things don't look great, why there's communication issues, why teams like the Seahawks and the Cardinals and the Giants have had success against this defense. But guys, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to be joined by Eagles insider Dave Spadaro. I'm hoping that he can get us fired up for the playoffs because it doesn't feel like we're getting ready for an Eagles playoff game right now. The vibe is terrible. Hope has been lost, right or wrong. But maybe Dave Spadaro can get us fired up for an Eagles playoff game that we've waited all season for this moment, and none of us are happy about it. So stay tuned, guys. Hit that like button. We'll be right back with Eagles insider Dave Spadaro.
Go to get your game on. Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the stakes and the stakes. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit theoceanac.com to plan your visit.
At Pond Lehocky, we've recovered billions of dollars for our clients, and we're confident we can do the same for you. With over 250 years of combined courtroom experience, we've helped over 100,000 injured clients obtain some of the largest settlements in Pennsylvania. One conversation is all it takes to help you and your family get back on track. If you've been injured in an accident, give Pond Lehocky a call.
They're carving them up and good play calling along the way. First and goal at the 6.
On the field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
Underdog Fantasy has a way for you to play alongside your favorite football team all season long with their fantasy pick'em game. You pick between 2 to 5 players, select whether they'll go higher or lower on one of their stats, then do what you usually do on a Sunday. Watch the games. You can win up to 20 times your money in a single game by going 5 for 5. It's a fantasy game, and the Sports Betting Show wants you to get involved. Go to UnderdogFantasy.com. When you sign up, use the promo code WIN, and Underdog will double your first deposit up to $100. That's UnderdogFantasy.com. Use the promo code WIN.
Do you stream on a Roku, Fire Stick, Google TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app.
For the big story on Action News,
search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.
EAGLES, Eagles.
What's up, everybody, and welcome back into the Philly Sports Power Hour with Bill Colarulo as we try to get ourselves hyped up and fired up for the Philadelphia Eagles NFL playoff game on Monday night. It hasn't been easy, but I'm hoping our next guest can get us positive, get us excited. I don't have confidence, but hey, if anyone can do it, it's Eagles insider Dave Spadaro. Let's get Dave on the show. What's going on, my brother?
Good morning, Bill. I understand how everybody feels. It has been a really, really tough slog these last 6 weeks. But the game changes in the playoffs, and we've seen it year after year after year. Always remember, it's not necessarily the best team that wins. It is the best team that day. And so everything that the Eagles have done, look, they have had golden opportunities, and we wish the game on Monday or Sunday or Saturday, whenever it would be, was at Lincoln Financial Field. But it's Monday night, it's in Tampa, and the Eagles have veterans here. They have players who know what it takes to win in the postseason, and they have rested players. And I feel like they're going to play good football. Now, look, I'm part of the team. We all know that. You never lose hope when you're part of the team. You believe in the people around you. I believe that there's pride here. I believe that they are embarrassed with the way they've been playing these last 5 losses in 6 games, and that there will be a resurgence of the Philadelphia Eagles on Monday night. That's just what I believe. And I can't say it's based on what they've done in the past month and a half, but it's based on who they are and the belief that this football team is a whole hell of a lot better than what we've seen.
Now, I know we don't know much yet about the injuries. I heard Nick Sirianni this morning talking that the players will be back in the building today. But from what you saw after the game on Sunday, how was AJ? How was Jalen? Are we confident that they're going to play on Monday night?
I mean, I'm not official in any way, but yeah, I think everybody's hopeful that they'll play. I think that everybody believes that barring setbacks that they will play. I mean, it would take a whole lot more than a finger injury to keep Jalen Hurts out of this football game. And I think AJ is okay as well, but we'll see as the week goes along here and the word becomes official, but I think everybody's hopeful.
So before we get into Eagles playoffs, yesterday was Black Monday in the NFL, and we did see some changes already being made to head coaching positions. Ron Rivera, Washington Commanders coach, a lot of people expected this. He was relieved of his duties. Were you with the Eagles when Rivera was on staff?
Yeah, Ron and I are really good friends, and his son Chris worked in our department for a while, and I think Ron's one of the finest men I've ever met. And but we talked about this, the game management. There were always some issues there in Washington with him and kind of some of the ways he treated reviews and timeouts and so forth. But I always wonder with a guy like Ron, who I don't know how old he is right now. I always look at these kind of older coaches and I go, like David Culley, the former wide receivers coach here and former head coach of the Houston Texans. We have not heard from him since his 1 year of coaching with Houston. I always wonder, and I feel like David's playing, I haven't talked to him in a little while, but he's playing a million rounds of golf and and doing the things that he really enjoys. And I wonder if Ron will do that. You know, it becomes very much of an addiction when you're in the NFL. The cadence of the job is really what attracts you to competition. So if anybody wants a really good defensive coordinator out there, Ron Rivera is an excellent one. I wonder what his next step will be.
Yeah, so I see in the chat, and I just looked it up as well, Rivera is 62 years old. And when we talk about some older coaches, there's somebody
still young. That's still young.
Yes,
okay?
It is still young. Because there's a coach that is going to be 72 at the start of next season. And there's a lot of speculation about what's going to happen with Bill Belichick. He's meeting with Robert Kraft today, apparently. So 2 questions for you. 1, do you think his time in New England is done? And 2, do you see him maybe going to the Washington Commanders? Because that's one of the landing spots.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sitting here a million miles away from that situation. I really have no idea what's going on in New England. I guess my thing with Josh Harris is if I were him, I think I'd want a fresh start, a young, forward-thinking guy. Now, I guess you would say Belichick is someone who would kind of give them some organizational direction. But look, I have no idea in either what Washington's thinking or what New England's thinking. I just want the Eagles to win a playoff game here, Bill, and start things off and get some momentum going. And like, that's the focus, and beat Tampa Bay and then find out what's after that and win that game as well and just keep going. But it's certainly interesting. I mean, you know, when is the right time for a legend like Bill Belichick to step aside? And what will the legacy be? Will it be the 6 Super Bowls? Will it be that Tom Brady won him all those Super Bowls? Will it be Deflategate? What will it be? A great defensive mind? Like, when it is over for Bill Belichick, and he's 72 years old, like, I don't know why you'd still want to keep coaching. I mean, like, enjoy life. It's a brutal job.
Don't forget Spygate, Dave. Don't forget Spygate.
Right, exactly. You know, it's funny. There's a when the NovaCare complex was built, and I do a lot of tours and stuff and bring people around. Like in the meeting rooms on that side of the building, it faces Broad Street. And when they built the NovaCare complex, they put windows in these rooms that later became meeting rooms. And back in early 2001, it opened. Everybody freaked out here because there were windows in the meeting rooms, and they immediately had to put blinds in the windows because they didn't want anybody getting binoculars and like looking out through, the apartment complex over there, or like hiring somebody over there to like look in to the Eagles meeting rooms, positional meeting rooms, defensive meeting room at that time, and steal anything. And that's how the Spygate, the impact of the Spygate in the NFL kind of impacted the Eagles.
And you mentioned stealing things, so it reminded me of the national championship game last night, because there was some controversy, obviously, with Michigan this year and Harbaugh and stealing signs, but that Michigan team is a good football team, well-coached team. Did you watch the game last night?
Yeah, I did. It's interesting. When I watched it, I was rooting for Michigan. Some friends of mine, Tom Gamble, who is the son of Harry Gamble, works there. Jesse Minter is the son of Rick Minter, a former linebackers coach. He's their defensive coordinator. I've got a lot of friends who are Michigan fans. A dear departed friend was a huge Michigan fan. So I was rooting for Michigan slightly. I just detest Jim Harbaugh, and I detest the cheating scandal. I think it's disgusting what they did, but good football team. I watch games, though, a lot of times, and I'm like, is this guy an NFL player? Can that guy play? And I had a conversation with Merrill Reese a couple of weeks back in the locker room about Michael Penix, and he was like, David, Michael Penix spins the ball as well as any quarterback I've seen since Michael Vick.
Pretty good impression.
I was like, Merrill, I really don't watch a lot of college football. So I was watching Penix last night, and I was like, no friggin' way, man. The guy doesn't step into his throws. He like throws with his feet parallel. Like it just so unimpressive. But Michigan, good line play, run the football, mash it up. Quarterback made plays when he had to. It was a good game into the fourth quarter, and that is rare in this college football playoff series.
Yeah, it is. It is. But he's got a great story, that kid, too, after being hurt. Was it Indiana?
Yeah.
and then making his way over to Michigan. Well, Jim Harbaugh, is he coming back to the NFL? A lot of talk about it.
Yeah, I don't know. I think Jim Harbaugh's on top of the world right now, so can make his own decisions. And kind of hard to leave a play. Like, I know recruiting stinks, and I know coaches would rather be in the NFL than the work. The pace of work in the NFL is just so much more palatable than college because you're always recruiting. You've got to deal with these teenage kids who are like looking for money, and like it's really a pain in the butt. But the coaches make so much dough. And Harbaugh is the king of the world in Ann Arbor, Michigan, which is a great campus and just a great part of the world. I don't know why he would want to leave other than to go back to the NFL and prove to everybody that he can win at that level. And we'll see. I mean, there's some very attractive names out there already. But I think the general thought from what people have told me, my buddies have told me, and I haven't really looked into it because I'm not looking into that world, that it's not a great year to look for head coaches. So, I mean, I'm based on what Harbaugh did in his time in the NFL and what I heard of him, difficult guy to like, and might be tough. Might be in a good situation in college, not one in the NFL.
Yeah, he did have some success, obviously, with the 49ers, but I could see him button heads with some owners. I doubt you're going to see Dave Tepper in Carolina bring on a guy like Harbaugh. I think that would be a recipe for disaster with those two guys.
I mean, that's a tough one right there. Like that, how attractive is that job? If you believe in Bryce Young, have you seen a lot of him?
It's crazy when you look at the comparison between Bryce Young and CJ Stroud, man. The Houston Texans, I don't know if they would have taken Bryce Young if they had a higher draft pick or if they would have gone with CJ Stroud, but did it work out for them? Because Stroud looks like an absolute stud.
Yeah, great game against Indianapolis. That was a really fun game to watch. And people have always asked me, who's your second favorite team in the NFL? And I don't have one. I just want the Eagles to win. And I want the Eagles to win. I want the Cowboys to lose. And otherwise, I don't really care at all. But I've got a lot of friends on both teams. Shane and I were really close. And on the Houston side, they have some coaches there. Dino Vasily is over there, and I really like him. And but watching CJ Stroud, and D'Amico was a great guy. Wow, what a young quarterback with poise. He's got it all. And to take that team from a good competitive team last year, and you kind of figured he went to the right situation, because they play good defense and they had some pieces around him. I didn't realize Nico Collins was that kind of receiver, but they'll be competitive in the playoffs. It's going to be fun to watch him in his first postseason experience.
Tough matchup for him going up against another old friend, Jim Schwartz, and the Cleveland Browns defense. So that's
I think the Browns are a sleeper. I am not of the belief that the Baltimore Ravens are a given. I still think that Lamar Jackson is a quarterback who gets figured out in the postseason. I could be wrong. This might be the year that's different. Baltimore's a really good football team, but I've watched him in the past, and he's got to win from the pocket more. And Jim Schwartz, that defense with Joe Flacco not turning the football over, they run the ball well. They've got weapons on the outside. The Browns could definitely make some noise in the AFC.
Now, you said Lamar Jackson's a quarterback that gets figured out in the playoffs. So this could be a nice segue into our Philadelphia Eagles preview for the Tampa Bay Bucks, because one of the questions that I posed last night, I had John Marks on my other show, and we were talking about, did the San Francisco 49ers put out the blueprint on how to stop Jalen Hurts and this Eagles offense like Nick Bosa said they did after that game? Or do you think this is something this Eagles team can adjust to and figure out as we get ready for this wild card matchup?
Look, I think this entire season, teams have come in to the Philadelphia Eagles game and said, we are not going to let Jalen run the football and beat us. And I think that has then taken an element of this offense and put it in a very challenging position. The explosiveness of Jalen in the run game, the threat of Jalen in the run game, and his options. And so is there a blueprint? I mean, look, your coaching staff has to then adjust. And the Eagles have gotten blitzed, have gotten pressured, have not adjusted there well. They've turned the football over continually throughout the season. So I hope there's not a blueprint. I mean, if there's a blueprint out there, then it's upon the Eagles coaching staff to recognize that blueprint and beat it and adjust. And so that's what I'm looking forward to seeing, how this team, I mean, again, we're talking about flipping a switch. How they do it against a Tampa Bay defense that's going to blitz, that plays downhill, that's got a lot of speed, that tackles very well, that's physical, that's got all those elements. And, you know, it's going to be a big challenge on Monday night. So I would hope there's enough multiplicity in this offense that there's no blueprint that works. But clearly the Eagles offense has been struggling, and the defense, obviously, we'll get into that, I'm sure. But it's incumbent upon the Eagles to find solutions to what defenses are doing to them and dictate the defenses. And I think that's what we haven't seen this year enough. We've seen Jalen win from the pocket. We've seen Jalen at times run the football. We've seen the Eagles' run game be very, very good, like it was in Tampa week 3. So, I think that's, if you say, what's your bread and butter offensively? To me, it's still getting the ball out to AJ and Devontae, and then throwing the ball early, getting Jalen going early, and then running the football. That's how I like to see this offense operate.
And if you look back, it feels like it was forever ago, but you look back to week 3 when they played the Bucs in Tampa. They were so balanced. They put up over 200 yards rushing in that game, and that was back-to-back weeks, because they put up 200, I think, against the Vikings as well the week before, if I'm not mistaken.
Because Swift had 175 that game. Yep.
So do you see that? Do you see this team trying to come out against a Bucs defense and trying to establish the run again? Because like you said, we know Todd Bowles is going to bring the blitz. They're the third most blitzing team in the league.
Bill, if you're Jalen and you're standing at the line of scrimmage and there's an 8-man box, you don't run the football. You throw it. And if you've got one-on-one matchups with Goddard, Smith, Brown, you go to those one-on-one matchups. So is running the ball important? Yes. But am I the only one who screams about chunk plays? Like, Troy Aikman, I heard talk about it the other night on the air. You have to get chunk plays. You've got to get big gainers. You can't keep driving 12 plays, 75 yards. And I have just not seen enough chunk plays. Will there be opportunities to do that? Look, against a blitz, it's either hit or miss. And Jalen was so good against the blitz, right, in years past. So what do the Eagles do? What adjustments do they make against the Tampa Bay blitz? And how do you gash them? It could be with the run. It could be with Jalen running. It could be throwing the football down the field. And so, yeah, I mean, I think they want to establish the run game for sure. It's really important. But I think also you can't rely on long drives against Tampa Bay. You've got to have some gash plays, some chunk plays. So I'm up for whatever the defense is going to give you. If they're going to have a light box and you get to run the football and you want to run it all day, great. It's important that the call comes in on time, that Jalen sees what he sees, and that the Eagles adjust to what is being presented by the Tampa Bay defense. And if that's a blitz, there are a lot of ways to beat the blitz, and the Eagles just haven't done that consistently.
And when you talk about chunk plays, I think one of the things that I've had a problem with this Eagles team this season is they always talk about the explosive play. That's Nick Sirianni's philosophy. They don't want to go.
Everybody's philosophy.
In the NFL, they talk about it all the time. You know, these long drives, that's not what teams want to do. They want to score quickly. But what I think the problem has been is chunk plays and explosive plays don't have to be throwing the ball 20, 30 yards down the field. You look at the San Francisco 49ers, they get chunk plays by scheming their best players open in space. You don't have to throw the ball 25, 30 yards down the field. You hit them in space and you pick up the yards after catch that everybody loves. You can pick up those chunk plays, and that's something I haven't seen enough of this season, is getting the ball in our playmakers' hands in space to pick up that yak that everybody loves.
Yeah, I mean, look, AJ across the middle, the screens to Dallas Goedert, getting Swift involved in the passing game. We haven't seen that on a consistent basis. I agree. I would love to see that happen. We'll come back. And again, I just I just think that whatever's been missing, and I don't have the answer, right? Like I can't sit here and go, as Nick has said, we don't have the answer right now, or else we wouldn't be in a position where we are here. But I believe that it's going to just take some sort of a spark. And maybe it's a 3rd and 12 crossing route by AJ that he breaks for 35 yards, that they go, wow, okay, wow. Now we have a bread and butter thing. Now we have something that we can go to. Now we have something that we can stress the defense on. But until that happens, I can't tell you where that stuff has been. It's been a lack of execution. It's a combination play calling. It's everything. Everybody takes responsibility for it. But clearly the offense just hasn't been on its game on a consistent basis this season.
We're talking about the offense. You mentioned earlier the defense. Obviously, to say that they have struggled over the last few weeks would be an understatement. The Eagles make the decision to go from Sean Desai to Matt Patricia. Nick Sirianni at his press conference yesterday talked about how they didn't completely switch to Matt Patricia's defense because you couldn't do that this late in the season. I guess I can't ask you if you think that was a good decision here.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter what I think. The decision has been made. I mean, my mindset is to look forward, right? Like, I certainly acknowledge what the defense has been here. I think everybody has. You can't not acknowledge what the defense has been and the struggles that we've seen. But again, I'm part of the team. I'm hopeful that these coaches will find good matchups in this Tampa Bay game and take away Mike Evans like they did in week 3, where he had 3 catches for 14 yards going into the 4th quarter, where they shut down the run game, where they get after Baker Mayfield and mix in some blitz. And I have seen Matt Patricia work some blitzes, right? We've seen some secondary blitzes. We've seen it didn't work with Kevin Byard trying to do it the other day, but he's trying. That everybody's on the same page, and that seems to be what's missing right now. Everybody's not on the same page, at least has not been. So my focus is like on this week, extra day, take advantage of it, get on the same page, be very specific, very intentional with your matchups, communicate that stuff really, really clearly, and go beat up on the Bucs, who scored all of 9 points on Carolina on Sunday.
No doubt that even though the Philadelphia Eagles lost in kind of embarrassing fashion week 18, the Eagles lucked out a little bit because they have, in my opinion, the worst opponent in the NFC. You look at the other teams, I think the Tampa Bay Bucs are probably the worst NFC team in the playoffs. So certainly helps the Philadelphia Eagles. But the way they've been playing over the last few weeks, anybody could beat them. We saw it. The Cardinals beat them. The Giants beat them. And a lot of fans are worried that Nick Sirianni has lost this locker room. A lot of fans are worried that there is a division in that locker room, that something's going on that we don't know about. What can you tell us to make us feel a little bit better as we get ready for Wild Card Weekend about this team, and are they unified, and are they going to come out and play on Monday night?
Yeah, I mean, look, I feel that in the building. I feel that in the fact that there's, players who have gone down this road before, and that they finally have this moment. They finally arrived at the moment where they win, where they go home. And if they go home, Bill, it's going to be going home to a lot of really, really tough questions to answer going into the offseason. I don't think anybody wants to do that. So, I actually had this one little moment with Nick yesterday. I just was like, hey, we were having a salad, or we were getting a salad bar. I was just like, hey, Nick, hey, coach, F everybody, go kick some ass, blah, 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 blah. Like just something, just, hey, Dave, appreciate that, blah, blah. I mean, I think we all recognize that there's a lot of how the fans feel. Deservedly so, this team has not played good football. So anything you can do in the building to kind of rally around it. I do believe getting away from Philly is going to be good for this team, us against the world, going against a team that they had beaten already, going against a team that they know they match up well against. I think that will be a good thing for the team. And I think a win on Monday night could be that spark that takes you into the divisional round, and then you never know. But I don't think Nick's lost the locker room. I just think that for whatever reason, and I can't, again, these 5 losses in 6 weeks are really inexplicable to me. I mean, I've not lived through something like this, other than like Rich Kotite in '94 losing 7 straight games after a 7-2 start. I mean, that was a lame duck coach, new owner, different situation, not a good football team. This is a good football team, we think, that has played poorly in these last, and really has not played its best, what we think can be its best football. And look, Bill, if they come out and play another kind of game like that on Monday night, then that's just what this football team is all about. I just happen to believe that that's not what this football team is all about. I happen to believe that when they are faced with that moment where it's now you win or your season is done, that there will be a team that is ready to play its best football.
Well, I hope you are right, man, because here's what I see happening. I do think the Eagles are going to beat a bad Bucs team, and I also have the Los Angeles Rams upsetting the Detroit Lions, which means in the divisional round, we're going to Dallas. And that's what I think is going to happen.
Are you so certain that Dallas will defeat the Green Bay Packers?
I am. As much as I hate the Dallas Cowboys, I just think they are so good at home. That offense has become unstoppable in Dallas. I see them winning that football game and headed to the divisional round. And I think it's going to be against the Eagles because I do think the Rams are going to upset the Lions at Ford Field. But we will see. But Dave, before I let you go, wild card weekend. This may be the last time if the Eagles don't win, but I need you to give me that energy. I need you to get these fans going before you head out the door because we got a playoff game on Monday.
Yeah, well, look, everybody. I mean, I know it's been a really tough road here. It's been a season that we didn't expect. Thank you for all your support. Thank you for all your passion. We know how you feel, but everybody, we're in it together, and that means everything. So put away the pain that you felt here these last 5 or 6 weeks, and let's focus in on the Tampa Bay Bucs and understand that the Eagles come out fast, play strong, play physical football, and finish this game on an up note and beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and go to Dallas, as Bill said, and whoop up on the Dallas Cowboys. But first things first, let's beat Tampa Bay. And at the end of the day, everybody, fly Eagles fly and go Birds!
Thank you, Dave. Trying to get us a little fired up here because a lot of fans have lost hope, rightfully so. And you guys know, I see you in the chat. Yes, Dave works for the Eagles. It's tough sometimes. He's got to be positive, and he tries to be positive. But I do believe him. I do think that this Philadelphia Eagles team, with the veterans that they have, want to go in and win this game. You have guys that you don't know if they have any more NFL games left in them. This could be Jason Kelce's last game in a Philadelphia Eagles uniform. Fletcher Cox's last game. Brandon Graham's last game. So I do think that these guys are going to go out and give it their all. I do think that this leadership group that we have been waiting for to pull this team through adversity over the last few weeks are going to do everything they can because they don't want their careers in Philadelphia to end this way. Whether or not it'll be enough is another question. But I do expect this team to at least go out on Monday night in Tampa and try to win that game. I can't imagine a team rolling over in a playoff game, but you never know. This team has surprised me week after week. And I've said it before, they didn't respond after the San Francisco game. They didn't respond after the Dallas game. They didn't respond after the Seattle game. They didn't respond after the Cardinals game. So what makes us think that now, because the playoffs have started, that they're going to be able to flip that switch and finally respond? The only reason why is because of the team they're playing. Because the Tampa Bay Bucs are not a good football team. The Philadelphia Eagles got very lucky in who their first-round wild card opponent is. And they could win this game. They could also easily lose this game with how bad they've been playing. But they could win this game when you look at how bad the Bucs have been. But outside of that, if they do have to go to Dallas the next week, or they do have to go to San Francisco the next week, they're going to get dominated. Because this team, and I see Ringo Island in the chat saying, what happened to they showed us who they are? You're right, Ringo. And I still feel that way, that this team has showed us who they are. They're not a good football team. It's just that when I look at the Tampa Bay Bucks, the Bucks may be a worse football team. Do I think this Philadelphia Eagles team can flip the switch and beat the Cowboys or the 49ers or even the Rams or the Lions? No, I don't think they can. But I do think they can beat a bad Bucks team. And that would kind of go with the rest of this season, wouldn't it? Torture us for one more week. Win a playoff game. Head to Dallas or San Francisco in the divisional round and get embarrassed. Wouldn't that kind of be a fitting end to what we've been through as a fan base this season? For them to torture us one more week, beating Tampa Bay. And whether we want to or not, every single one of us, if they do beat Tampa Bay, there'll be a little bit of hope. It'd be impossible not to have a little bit of hope, but I'm not going to have any. I see Empire saying I'm delusional. You really think that this Bucks team is a good team? They're just not. I'm not saying that this Eagles team is a good team either. I just think they can beat a bad Bucks team. If this Eagles team had to play any other team to start the playoffs, they would get dominated. If they had to play San Francisco or Dallas or Detroit or even the Los Angeles Rams or the Green Bay Packers, they would have gotten dominated. But I do think they can beat this Bucks team, and we'll continue to talk about it. Now, one of the alarming things is, as I'm saying this, that they could beat this Bucks team. If you do look at the last 6 games between what the Eagles have done and what the Bucks have done, well, now it's who's the better team. Because the Eagles are 1-5 in their last 6. The Bucks are 5-1. The Eagles have a -8 turnover differential in their last 6. The Bucks have a +5 turnover differential. And the point differential, forget it. Eagles, -59 in their last 6. The Bucks, +38. But the only reason why I say that this Eagles team could beat the Bucks is because the Bucks have Baker Mayfield at quarterback. This is not a dominant team. The Eagles really got lucky, not only going up against the worst NFC team that's in the playoffs, but the worst NFC quarterback that's in the playoffs. But we'll see what this team does, because we know, as we sit here right now, that the Tampa Bay Bucks are going to blitz the hell out of Jalen Hurts. And if they come out like they did against the Giants with 0 answers for the blitz, then you're right. This Bucks team will win. And I'm not guaranteeing that this Eagles team will win. Trust me, I see some people in the chat saying I'm delusional. I'm not saying that they will win this game. I just think they can because of how bad the Bucks are. But they could just as easily lose this football game. And I said yesterday on the show, as big of a fan as I have been of Nick Sirianni, as much as I thought it would have been an overreaction to move on from him last week when people were talking about it, after seeing what this team did against the Giants, if this Eagles team comes out against the Bucks on Monday night and puts another performance like they just did the last couple of weeks, then I don't think it's an overreaction to say that Nick Sirianni's job is in jeopardy. Because then what we would have seen is one of the most historic collapses in NFL history. You would see a team that has completely given up on their head coach. Because that is what we saw last week in New York or North Jersey. I've never seen a team that's going to the playoffs give up like the Eagles did last week. So as much as I'm saying they could beat the Bucks because the Bucks are a bad team, they could just as easily lose this game as well because the Eagles aren't good either. But we'll continue to break it down. I just think that this team is going to torture us for another week. But guys, like we end every Philly Sports Power Hour with a little today in sports history. And this one's interesting only because of where I'm going to go with it. But on January 9th, 1978, Chad Johnson, Ocho Cinco, was born. So happy birthday, Ocho Cinco. But the reason I bring him up for today in sports history is because some of the things he had to say about this Philadelphia Eagles team yesterday. But before we get there, Ocho Cinco played 11 years in the NFL, 10 years with Cincinnati, 1 with New England, went over 1,000 yards 7 times in his career, 766 catches, over 11,000 yards, 67 touchdowns. Still can't believe he wanted to put Ocho Cinco on his jersey, so he officially changed his name to get Ocho Cinco on the back of his jersey. But the reason I bring him up today, not only is it his birthday, but it's because what he said about the Philadelphia Eagles. He said he thinks the Eagles are going to fix it, that the Eagles are playing possum, that he knows what they're doing. They're playing possum to allow their bodies and their minds to reset and just watch what they do in the playoffs. So Ocho Cinco seems to think that this Eagles team is just playing possum and that they're going to flip that switch now and go on a Super Bowl run. Man, I wish Ocho Cinco was right. But just like I thought he was crazy and insane to change his name to Ocho Cinco so he could put that on his jersey, he may be even crazier now thinking that this team is just playing possum. Because unfortunately, this is who this team is. They're not very good. They're not well coached. They don't have a strong culture. They're everything that I thought they weren't. They can't battle adversity. And that's the biggest surprise for me from this entire 2023 season. But I'm still sticking to the fact that I think they can win in Tampa. But outside of that, they're not doing anything. But guys, I appreciate all of you here spending this hour with me. I really do enjoy it. We'll be back here tomorrow, 10 o'clock on the Philly Sports Power Hour, like we are every day. And make sure you're following me on Twitter and Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Facebook. Follow me everywhere. We're posting daily content multiple times a day about this Philadelphia Eagles team. So give me a like, give me a follow, send me some DMs, let me know things you want to talk about. Love hearing from my Power Hour crew. So I will be back here tomorrow, 10 a.m. I'm going to give you this, guys, but there's not going to be a lot of motion in it. As always, go Birds.
Go for the polls and the pools. Go for the oohs and the ahs. Go for the bubbles and the bubbly. Go for the story and the stories. Go for the win. Go to Ocean Casino Resort. Book your trip at theoceanac.com.